All right, we are going to look at using the stability ball for some stuff today. So we're going to look at how to use the stability ball to train the hamstrings. So the hamstrings can be kind of a challenging muscle group to train all the way if you don't have access to machines. So this stuff is going to be great if you're either really limited on equipment, if you're traveling, if you're trying to add another hamstring exercise to your repertoire. But there's 3 different things that we're going to use this for. So the very first one is just going to be a stability ball leg curl. All right, so your hamstrings need to be trained 2 ways. You need to be trained, one, in a way that makes you pull your heel to your butt, okay, so flexing at the knee. The other is they need to be trained in a way that extends the hips, so bringing the hips up this direction. So we're going to look at some variations to cover each of those things. So the first one is going to be a hamstring curl. So what I want you to do is put your heels up on the ball. The heel should be in contact, and so should the lower part of your calf. Because what we want is, as we go through the curl, I don't want your heels to leave the ball. If you get too far up this way, you're going to end up riding up onto your toes, and what's going to happen is you end up putting too much pressure on your calves. You'll end up with a Charlie horse, and by the time that sets in, you're pretty much going to be done because you won't be able to focus on anything else. So we're going to get it right up here. And we're going to take our toes and pull them back. Same reason is that we don't want to overly contract the calves. So I want my toes pulled back, head's going to rest down here on the floor, and my hands are just going to go off to my side. Now you can go as wide or as narrow as feels comfortable, as long as you don't wobble so much side to side that you completely fall off the ball. Your hand position just needs to be there to keep you grounded. So we're going to bring the hips up. As soon as the hips come up, I want to look at my hips. I'm going to try to keep a straight line from my knee to my hip to my shoulder. Okay, as close to a straight line as we can without starting to arch through our back. So we're going to use our abs and we're using our glutes to keep that straight line going. I'm going to drive my heels down into the ball. That's going to create some tension in my hamstrings right away. And then as I curl the ball in, I'm going to keep this extended hip position. I'm going to bring my hips all the way up so I've got room to pull the ball and my heels underneath my hips. All right, keeping my hips up keeps tension in the entire hamstring, and I'm driving down again. That's where all my resistance is going to come from. And then as I roll the ball back out, come down nice and slow, keep this extended hip position, let the legs go straight, still got control over what I'm doing. I'm not dropping my hips down. Okay, I'm just going to keep driving my heels down as the very first action that I do. Then I start to curl the ball in. I'm just going to extend out. And the trick on this is that the harder you drive your heels down, the more friction you're going to make with the ball against the floor. Sort of like if I were to scrape my heel across the ground like this, I can do it really lightly and have no resistance, or I can do it really hard and have lots of resistance, and I'll feel the difference in my hamstrings. The exact same rule is going to apply here. So the nice thing with that hamstring curl is the stronger you get, the harder you can push down, which means the more friction you can make. So you can actually kind of naturally progress the difficulty of this as you get stronger. So it becomes kind of like this self-regulating exercise. So that's the very first of our exercises, is the leg curl. All right. For the second exercise on the ball, we're going to kind of reverse the setup. So what we're going to do is, on that hamstring curl, the goal was to create all the movement at the knee and keep the hip locked in place. Now we're going to flip it around. We're going to fix the knee in position and just move at the hip. So our feet are going to go up again on the ball. We're going to pull right in, just like we finished a leg curl, but with our butt on the ground. So I want our hamstrings and our calves touching. We want our heels to be kind of right on top of the ball, and we're pulling our toes back again. We don't want to cramp up the calves. Head's now going to go back. So now my hips are going to drive up into a bridge. Again, my goal is going to be to get a straight line from the knee to the hip to the shoulder, and I want to stop the ball from rolling away. So now my lower hamstrings are holding that ball from rolling away from me while my hips create the movement to go into the bridge. So again, hands go down on the floor, drive the heels down. Don't start at the hips, start at the heels. Drive the heels down to create tension, to get the hips up. Again, we want to go all the way up, as straight of a line as you can make between knee, hip, and shoulder without starting to arch through your lower back. We're going to keep that ball in place. We're going to stop right before our hips touch the ground. We still want to keep tension, and then up we go. Again, so the trick here is that nothing in that ball moves. Everything comes off of the hamstrings. So that is the second version of hamstring work on this ball. Okay, so the very last thing we're gonna do on this is we're gonna create a hybrid of the last two exercises. So we're gonna blend together a leg curl and a bridge. This is gonna be a significant amount more tension. You're gonna likely fail a lot faster on this because you've got two different things happening. So the way this is gonna work is we'll come back to the bridge position from the last exercise. This will be our starting point. So I'm gonna get here. I'm gonna drive my hips up in the air, get that locked out hip position. Then I'm gonna extend out. So now I get into my leg curl position and I pull back, and then I return my hips down toward the ground. Okay, so I'm putting both motions into one exercise. So up go the hips, extend out into my hamstring curl, lower back away from the bridge. The whole time I'm never releasing how hard I push into that ball, so I want to light up my hamstrings as best as I can. So again, your rep count on that movement is probably going to be a lot lower, maybe by as much as half of what you were getting on the previous exercises, but stuff to give you some variety in your hamstring training, again, if you're limited on equipment or if you just don't get a lot from the things you're trying. This is something to add to your training repertoire to see how it works.